Good morning, everybody. Shefa Brucha V'Atzlocha. We're starting a new book, Sefer Devarim. It's also called Mishneh Torah. Like it's a different book from all the others books. And what's the reason? The main reason is that we're talking here about getting into Eretz Israel. And what do we need in order to do this in the best way? And how do we keep this land? So all the things I've written in Sefer Devarim are very important for us to be here in Eretz HaKodesh and live properly in the right way and going in the right direction. And it's very interesting that the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, for example, says Ele advarim asher diber Moshe. He's starting to say something that is very hard to understand. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu, what's written in Sefer Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the one who wrote it from himself. And it's very hard to understand. What do you mean? There is a famous Gemara that says that if you say that one word, one letter is not from God, it's a kofar. This is kfirah. This is unbelievable. So how can this be? I'm not going to go into this discussion very deeply, but one of the main answers is very simple. In life, we have levels. And we have to understand, the Zohar HaKadosh says that everything that comes from up there comes, wow, in one go. But what we are building up there to heaven, we do it slowly, step by step. Moshe Rabbeinu in the beginning, he was like all the prophets. He got a vision, he saw the snare, this bush, burning bush, or whatever, and so on. But then, he was getting higher and higher and higher, till the moment that is written that Lo kam b'Yisrael k'Moshe. There was nobody in prophecy like Moshe Rabbeinu in Israel. And the meaning is, Pe el pe adaber bo. God is talking through Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, at Sefer Devarim, Moshe is at that level that whatever he talks is really God talking. He's talking through Moshe Rabbeinu because he got so high that whatever he was talking was Torah. So the lesson for us is that everybody can get to a very high level if we will go step by step and do it in the right way. And talking about this, it's very interesting how all the explanation of what's happening in Ele Devarim. Ele Devarim is written in the beginning. We have a whole story again about crisis. For example, let's look at it and see. Ele Advarim Shel Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu talks those things to Israel, Ever HaYarden, the other side of the Jordan, in the desert, in the Arava, Mul Suf, Ben Paran, Ben Tofel, Velavan, Vechatzerot, Vedizahav, 11 Yom Chorev. And we want to understand, what are we talking here? Is this, again, the same story as we had, let's say, Masay, that all we're talking about places that where Am Yisrael were, or is it something else? So, Ele, says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Ele is without a vav. It's not and this. So this is something separate. This is something else. And Rashi explains, and Or HaChaim HaKadosh also said this, that this is a rebuke. And like, for example, when we talk in the desert, he says they were not in the desert. אלא בערבות מואב. So what's the desert? מהו במדבר? אלא בשביל מה? שהכיסו במדבר. They sinned in the desert and said, מי ייתן מותנו? We will die here in the desert. And it's so, in other words, the desert, the midbar, is like a clue about the sin they did. So, and so on and on, all the clues are in order to show us that God, not God, Moshe Rabbeinu is mentioning us. Of course, so God is the one who is behind it, of course, but Moshe Rabbeinu is like rebuking Am Yisrael and telling him in clues. Why in clues? Says Rashi, Izkiram beremez mekvodam shel Israel. He didn't want to hurt them, like directly rebuke them, so that's the way he did it. But when we go on and on, then we see that the clues are starting to be very, very clear. No clues. Direct accusation, direct rebuke. When we get here, for example, here, ותקרבו with the spies, ותקרבו לה כולכם, ותאמרו, נשלחה אנשים, will send people לפנינו, and they will go and dig in the land, and ישיבו אותנו, and tell us what the way to go in. And I said, okay, וייטב הדבר בעיניי, ויקח מכם, I took 12 people, and they went and did what they did. They went to the הר, וישיבו אותם, ואמרו, הארץ שנתן השם אלוקינו, a whole story, ותרגלו באלוהיכם, and you said, בשנאת השם אותנו הוציאנו מארץ מצרים. In the haters of God, he took us out of Egypt. So where do we go? Achenu mesot levavenu. This, we cannot go into the land of Israel. And by the way, this is the night of Tisha B'Av that they were crying in Sinat Chinam. This Sinat Chinam, to blame God that He hates them when God loves us so much and did all those beautiful, unbelievable things for us. It's just showing us that that's the lowest level that you can get, to blame God with hatred. It means that you are the one who hates God. And this Sinat Chinam, this hatred that was happening, by the way, we're not, of course, it's not all Am Israel, it was very few, and we're not going to go into this issue, but the idea is that this Sinat Chinam is with us till today. Unfortunately, we are covered, we are all around. Look what's happening now in the streets. This is Sinat Chinam. This hatred to the religion, to everything, that to the Torah and to each other, and unbelievable. And the temple was destroyed because of this. And the temple is still destroyed, and they say, generation that the temple wasn't built in the time is the one who did destroy the temple. So we cannot blame nobody, just ourselves, that the Beit HaMikdash, that the temple is not yet here. It's very interesting. So first of all, we want to understand, this is not a clue. As we said, the rebuke was through clues. There's no clue. This is direct rebuke, and it goes on, by the way. And not going into, but what's the idea here for us? For us also another lesson, to understand, and you have to rebuke. When you see something wrong, you have to talk, you have to try and go against it. But sometimes it's enough to give a clue. Sometimes you have to speak directly and very clearly. And there is this famous story with the Chafetz Chaim. He knew how to rebuke. The Chafetz Chaim one day went to this place, Pundak, Drachim, hostel, whatever it was, and he was sitting, and there was this big shlopat, big guy, was cursing and talking nasty and shouting, really behaving in very, very bad way. He's what you call Cantonist. Cantonist, it was, at the time of the Russian Tsar, they used to kidnap kids, Jewish kids, and take them to the army and raise them there in the army and make them soldiers. And after, when they came to the age they got out of the army, they sent them back to their home. Of course, most of them didn't know what Judaism is, what religion is, they didn't know anything about it. Now this guy is sitting there and shouting and cursing, and the Chafetz Chaim is asking the owner, say, well, what's this? So he said, this is one of those Cantonists, and what can we do? We have to keep quiet. Chafetz Chaim goes, I'm going to talk with him. So don't you dare. This is a Michiganer. Who knows what's going to happen? Chafetz Chaim was 1.20 meters, very small. This guy was 2 by 2, a big guy. Chafetz Chaim comes and sits in front of him. And he says, wow, I envy you. I heard that you were one of those Cantonists and you still kept the religion. You're still Jewish. I envy you. I want to have a part in Olam Haba, on your Olam Haba. I want a part of you in the next world, for Gan Eden. I want to sit near you. And this guy is saying, what this old guy, this small guy wants from me? But the words got directly to his heart, and he started crying. And he did tshuva. There is an approach and there is an approach. And sometimes you have to know the way how to rebuke, how to do it in the right way. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us. Sometimes it's a clue, but don't insult the other side. Find a way. But sometimes you have to be very clear. Or Chaim HaGadol says something very interesting that we can connect to this thing. He says what we're talking here about is not also those places and a rebuke. It's the way to behave nicely. This is avodat hamidot. How do you work on your midot, or on your how do you say, on your good instincts, or I don't know how you call it in midot, avodat hamidot. I hope you understand. And it's very interesting how we're saying it. When we look into our Chaim HaKadosh, we will see unbelievable things. And really, 1 minute. It says there are 9 midot here. 9 ways to deal with our instincts, with our midot. Bad inclinations, how we call it. It says, for example, Abraham is written be'ever Avraham ha'ivri. We're talking about Avraham, that his midah was chesed. And then, interesting, it says that the anava should be in a proper way. And this bit ba'arava. What is ba'arava? Aravut. That aravut is like we are responsible for each other. We are really, all of us, one, involved in each other. This is aravut. In other words, it says, if you have to rebuke, you cannot just say, I am humble, anava, I've got the anava, I'm humble, like the desert, and, okay, who am I to talk to this guy? He's a big guy. Who am I to tell him off or to rebuke him? Says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, this is ba'arava. There are times that you should not look for an excuse and say, I'm humble. You can and you should go and rebuke, but do it in a nice way. Do it from love, because of arevut. And you have to stand up and say, this is not right what you're doing. But as we said, do it in a nice way, knowing who stands in front of you, but sitting and doing nothing and saying, I'm humble. No, that is not the right way. And it's so interesting and unbelievable how Or HaChaim HaKadosh looks in all those things. Like he says, what is Di Zahav? Di Zahav is a place. Di Zahav is gold. He says, first of all, he's talking down that you shouldn't run after the gold. Di Zahav. Enough for the gold. So how do you act in order to the gold? Shekol ma sheyeh lo yeh be'enav damar, that everything you've got is enough or is everything you need. Ke'ilu yesh lo kol hazahav, that you have all the gold in the world for you. It's what Yaakov says, yesh li kol. Esav says, yesh li rav. Esav says, I've got plenty. Yaakov says, I've got everything. How can he have everything? What has he got? Everything in the world, all the kettles in the world, all the gold in the world, all the silver, all the diamonds? No, of course not. So what is he saying? I've got all I need. I don't need any more. Whatever I've got is the best for me. And the way to look at life is this the best way. My wife is the best. My husband is the best. My house is the best. My parnosa is the best. My kitchen is the best. My family is the best. Everything I've got is the best of the best. I've got everything for me. What he's got or she got is not for me. It's not me. It's not going to help me. It's only going to damage me. It's like this morning I talked about there is this God's telling us ubacharta b'chaim. You should choose life. And what's the meaning? And who is going to choose death? And the thing is very interesting. There is this test that they used to do, the marshmallow test. They took kids into a room and gave them a marshmallow, one. And they said, if you're going to stand for 5 minutes, 10 minutes and not eat the marshmallow, you get 2 marshmallows. If you don't eat the marshmallow now. If you delay your satisfaction, if you control your will. Anyway, the test, some did, some didn't, whatever. That's not the idea. What they found out, that those who could stay for 5 minutes and not eat the marshmallow, they were very successful in life later on. A lot of people talked against it. It's what not exactly right, all the conditions of the test, but that's not the idea. I want to ask you a question. If you will have 1 marshmallow in front of you, and you will be told that if you keep for 5 minutes and don't eat the marshmallow, you get $1 million. Sounds good. And if you choose to eat it, you will be arrested for life. What would you do? What would you choose? It's very clear. Everybody wants the $1 million. Nobody wants to sit in jail. Now, if somebody is going to choose jail, is this, let's say, is this, how do you say, is this choosing? No. This is stupid. If you choose to sit in jail, it means you are stupid. You don't know what you're doing. And that's exactly the idea. The Torah is telling us, B'charta b'chaim. You have to understand, there is only one option if you're working from your brain, from your neshama. And the option is going the way of the Torah. That's the only option. There is no other option. And if you choose another option, which means, like people say today, do whatever your heart wants, do whatever you want, everything is good, and as long as you enjoy it. This is stupid. We all know what a moment of joy can bring us later on. If you want drugs, everybody knows this is not good for you. Or want to eat things you're not allowed to eat, everybody knows it's not good for you. What's going to happen? You want to do all those beautiful things of this materialistic world, which are going to lead you where? The opposite of life. So what is Bacharta B'Chaim? What is choosing here? It's very interesting. Choosing is to use your brain, use your neshama. That's why when you choose life. And it's very interesting to look at it from this point of view. And the Torah is telling us beautiful things. We see here from one point of view, we see the explanation that this is a rebuke, which is very important, to know what we did wrong in order to fix it. And the other side, it's showing us how to do it and how to better ourselves from the point of view of behavior. Use the midot in the best way we can. And those 9 midot, says Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh, this is what's going to keep us here in Eretz Yisrael. And to understand, when we choose to do the right way, to go in the right way, this is choosing life, choosing to live in Eretz Yisrael. This is the best thing that we can do. And talking about Aravut, being one, on Friday, 40 degrees I think it was, I went to the graveyard and for Askara, whatever it was, your side, coming back, a puncture in 5 seconds, the car was standing like this. I have a heavy car. And half of the family was with me in the car. What do you do now? We have to replace. I'm going in the heat. I phoned this special service I have. They told 1.5 hours they're going to come. Well, I'm not going to sit there 1.5 hours in the car with half of the family in the car. So my brother was with me, went out. We found the jack and the spare tire. We tried to replace. Unfortunately, we put the jack in the wrong place and nearly damaged the car more. Suddenly, Bitachon Ra'anana, security of Ra'anana, a jeep standing behind us, and a guy and a girl come out. Said Noam and I don't remember the names. He says, "What's happened?" He says, he sees this. He gets into it, lies down, looks exactly where to put the jack, and is all sweating, and he's doing it. I almost did nothing, and they just replacing for the spare part, and this is Aravut, 40 degrees, and they did it so kindly, so nicely, not waiting for any reward for nothing. Toda Rabba, very good. Well, you're welcome. We enjoyed helping you. This is Aravut. This is the way we stay in this holy land, Eretz Yisrael. Not what we see all around us, unfortunately. So let us really try very hard to choose life, to choose to do the good in the eyes of God. And be very careful. From one side, we have to keep our way the way of the Torah. Don't let nobody convince you otherwise. Don't let nobody tell you off because you keep the Torah. From the other side, we have to try and teach the other side, those who are going against the religion, against all what is holy, against all the things that brought us to this land. And this is a Jewish land. This is not a land like all the other lands. That is Eretz Israel. It's the only land in the world of the Jewish nation. And it cannot be like all the others, because we are unique. They throwed us from everywhere in the world. How can anybody even think about being like the Goyim? How can anybody think about going against the religion, against the Torah? But from the other side, our job is to rebuke them, but in a nice way, to find a way to their hearts, to explain to them what it's all about. Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope that if we learn Sefer Devarim and understand the rebuke that Moshe Rabbeinu is rebuking us, with a clue and without clues, and use those 9 midot in order to do the right in the eyes of God, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will find a way to be together again. All the best and Shavua Tov.